Hello, welcome to Wardrobe School. I'm Vanya. This is where we talk about upcycling, sewing, and a sustainable brand, and other things. So today we're gonna talk about your vendor booth. Okay, so this is a series of like selling clothing, upcycled clothing that I'm doing. I hope you enjoy. If you do like if you sell vintage clothing, or if you're starting an upcycled, a sustainable clothing line, these videos are the ones you want to watch. All right, so but before we get started, I would like to ask you for please subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet, and like the video. That helps the algorithm to like my video and bring more people. Also send to your friends if you think somebody could use this video. So I want to share with you about how it's a good way to set up your vendor booth. If it's a spring, in the springtime we sell a lot of outdoors, and then when it's winter we have that's if you're in the USA, right? In the winter we do like Christmas times, holidays, that we sell clothing and stuff. And so I've done that a million times. Really, like over 30 years of doing markets and fairs and stuff. So I have a lot to share, and today I'm gonna give you some tips so then you can do yourself a great booth that will sell and kill it. Okay, so the first tip is you have to create some sort of style. So it's good for you to plan ahead, right? When you're gonna have this fair in a month from now. And so start thinking like what kind of stuff that you can have in your booth. And we're going to talk about, like, I'll give you ideas of, props and stuff at the end of the video. But now I just wanted you to know that you have to plan ahead. Okay. And I say that because many times I'm like rushing, and then I just go and like do it without thinking. And it's better if you plan, because it's important for the branding. And don't worry about branding now. Even if you don't have a logo or anything, just go and do it. It's done is better than perfect always, right? You have to get it going, but you have to at least have some sort of cohesiveness in your booth, right? That has to do with your clothing, because otherwise it's just too confusing and no one can tell you apart from the other vendors. Okay, so it's important that you have the same style that you have your clothing, or your accessories or something, you have the booth as well. For instance, for me, every time, and this is something, because I'm like such a pro, I just do like simple things that I can carry. And I do in New York City, where like it's traffic, and many times I have to take an Uber to the market, so I do like the minimal I can. But what I do is I have like this nice white fabric that's very big, and I put in the back of my booth, and so it makes like this minimal look. And then I have like this funny changing room that I made it with the hula hoops, and everyone likes it, but it's also kind of like simple. And why I do that, it's because my clothing is very colorful, right? So I need the background and everything to not compete with the clothing. So I have that, and then I have a table that I cover with a white cloth as well. And it's very simple because I sell natural fiber clothing, linen and silk and cotton and stuff like that. My tablecloth is also cotton, and the fabric in the background, in the changing room, it's all like this nice light booth that people know me already. They see from far, they know it's Vanya's booth, right? So that's the first tip. The second tip is you need signage. Okay, you need to have your name there. How many times I've seen people that don't have the name, and then no one knows. I myself didn't have I've done many times because I'm rushing and I don't have the name, and then the customers are like, oh, your name is, you know what I mean? And especially because my name is not so easy to understand in the US, I have to have my name. And before, my brand was Lavai Maria. It was impossible for them to remember. So you have to have your sign with the written brands there. It doesn't have to be a logo at first. You just need your name written somewhere. And if you sew stuff, if you upcycle stuff, why not do cutouts and maybe embroider something in a piece of fabric and put it somewhere in your booth so people can recognize it. Okay, now one thing you should not do is or at least it's not, to my taste, I don't like it. It's those like, just go to Kinko's and tell them to print those banners. I know it's probably cheap and it's like affordable, and it's probably like the first idea comes to your mind, But it's not cool because, again, no one can tell you apart from the other people. You know, most people, they're just gonna have like the banner with a picture of somebody wearing their clothes and the logo, and it's kind of ugly. So, you know, do something more creative, even if it's simple. I'd rather you to have like a piece of fabric with your name on it than this banner, okay? Just a tip for you. I'm trying to make you to have a special booth, okay? The next tip is packaging. You have to have packaging. And trust me, many times I go to the market, I don't have any bags. And then they're like, how can I take it? So, you know, nowadays, like, it's better to not have plastic bags, obviously. But then make your bags if you can. I've done that. Or I do recycled things. I print on used bags, or, you know, I just make bags from leftover fabrics. When I had my store back in Brazil, the bag, you know, the shopping bag was like this little bag made out of, it was like pajama material. It was like, you know, those knits, like jersey that you make underwear and stuff. I bought it because it's cheap and it's cotton, so I bought a bunch of those, and then I made little bags with it. And then I still, like 20 years later, I go to Brazil and I see people wearing them. They wear it as a bag, but it's just like an open bag. And so, you know, and I wasn't doing much sustainable stuff back then. That's why I bought brand new yardage of cotton. But nowadays I'll just do, in the US, there's so many t-shirts. You can just like take t-shirts, cut it, do on the surgery real quick and make bags. That's an idea. Or you go to websites and buy paper bags, you know, craft bags, something. You need bags so people can carry the stuff they buy. And that's also like an energy thing, right? You have to be ready to sell, right? The minute you're ready to sell, people will buy from you. So it's important to have bags. The next tip is you have to have business cards, right? And that's easy, you know, to remember. Most people always think of that, but don't forget that. And if you don't have, like, if you haven't made the business cards, you can stamp. I've done that many times. You order a stamp online, and then you just stamp pieces of paper. Or in the last case scenario, you can just do like a QR code and have the QR code somewhere that the people can scan and, you know, find out your website. But then think about it. Just remember that when they scan that from your signage or something, they might never look on the website again. So it doesn't hurt to have a business card, right, that people can take, even if you write by hand. But it's important for people to take something with them, so to remember. One thing I've done recently is to have some sort of special paper, like I get those like golden things that I find at dollar stores, and then I stamp them, and then people like it because it's different. So, you know, if you have a piece of tissue paper, some sort of strange paper that you have that has to do with your brain. My brain is kind of strange, so, you know, it makes sense when I do things like that. But if you have some sort of paper that you can print or write on it, and that be your business card, always think about something that people want to save, not just like, you know, again, don't be generic. Don't just order from Vistaprint or something. Those, if that's the only option you have, fine. But I would rather have a handmade one than those like generic ones with a picture that's pretty much like the banner that I was just talking about, okay? The next tip is charge credit cards, right? You have to have some sort of way for people to pay with credit cards, especially if you sell upcycled clothing. That's not so cheap, right? We sell stuff for like $50, $80, $200, $300, and you don't expect people to have cash, especially nowadays. Most people don't have cash on their pockets, so you have to have a way for them to pay with credit card. And you know, it's easy. You can just set up a Squarespace. I use Square, that little thing that you put on your phone, in your smartphone, and then there's an app, and you get a charge, and they pay you next day. I think PayPal has that as well. I've never used PayPal, but they do, and Shopify has that. Even Etsy has a system for you to charge in-person sales. So make sure you do have credit card, okay, a charger. Don't let that pass, because you're going to lose a lot of sales if you don't, okay? And also take cash, right? Because cash is king. I know people who don't take cash, and I think that's not right, because some people want to buy cash. And if you do take cash, make sure you have change. If you have small things, and, you know, because, and all that is for you to not lose sales. Because trust me, sometimes you're selling something to somebody and they're like, oh, how can I pay? And then it's already, they want to buy. But if something stops them from buy, they walk away and they don't come back. They find someone else that is taking credit card or have a change, and then you lose the sale. So I'm helping you to not lose your sale and sell more. All right? Okay, and now The next tip is how can you display the stuff in your booth, right? Because that was the whole point of the video, isn't it? So you need to have a nice cohesive space, like we said, and also don't overstock your space unless your style is to have like a lot of crazy stuff all over for people to scavenge, especially if it's vintage or something like that, you know. But most of the time, to sell better, it's better if you have less stuff. The less, the better. Okay, even if you have a lot of stock, usually booths are small, right? Markets and fairs like that. So you don't have the whole booth filled with stuff. You just have some stuff. What I do is I have the table with the covered with the cloth, and then underneath the table I have my stock. And then I just have displayed a few pieces, not a few, but you know, like they have enough distance between each other so people can look through and not get like overwhelmed by it, right? So they can look, they can see there's room, you know. When you're thrifting and it's all like attached, like you can really see the piece, you get stressed. You don't want people to be stressed. Everything that makes people like have to think too much, makes them to give up. You don't want them to give up. You want to keep them there. And also it's better, you know, it just feels more comfortable and more, it feels nicer to look at a clothing rack that's like light, you know what I mean? And it's comfortable to look at. And the other thing also that I do, and it's great, is to separate by colors, right? You do a color palette, and then it's also more comfortable for the eye to see and understand it. You can, you know, display by shirts, by, you know, categories and stuff, but I learned that by that displaying by color sells better, or at least people give compliments and they like it, okay? And also it's part of my branding. I like to have that. So it's the white background, the white table, and then the pieces are like just like a rainbow, right? Kind of. And then the last tip is the props, okay? So I nowadays don't use many props, but it's a way, I do sometimes some stuff. I play more with the way I display. Sometimes I just hang things across and stuff like that. Again, because I like weird. But if you like weird as well, and if you want to do, you know, something that makes sense for your weirdness, is to have props, because that will remind people. And, you know, again, generic, they can put plants. Plants are always good if you know, if you want to carry plants to the booth or something. But anything that you can hang, you know, sometimes it's just a piece of fabric that has some sort of a print that's cool, that has to do with your style, or like a patchwork or something, you know. And so that will make people remember about you, right? One thing I did once, and that was like a long time ago in Williamsburg, I did, I printed like heads. Let's say, for instance, I remember one that was like Queen Elizabeth. I don't know who, I just chose a few people from the internet, and then I printed their faces, and I attached the face, I put it like in a cardboard, and I attached it on top of the hanger. And so it was like if they were wearing the clothes. And I had just a few all over my booth, right? I think it was Michael Jackson. I don't remember who it was, but like I had like those props, and then that everyone was talking about that. You know, they would enter the market, and then, you know, my booth was kind of like crazy with all my colorful clothing and stuff, and then those props, you know, those head hangers sort of, you know. And so that was like a conversation piece. People talked to me, and so it was cool. And then it makes them remember. And I kept those for like months. I did like a weekly market there in Brooklyn, and then people always come back to me and knew that that booth was mine, right? So you can abuse on props, don't go crazy, but you know, if you, anything that you can have on your booth that will make like sort of a branding, it's great, okay? And again, you don't have to worry about branding, you know, like have all like a fancy designer do your logo in it or anything. Those are hacks that I'm giving to you, tips that for you to start when you're like on a budget, and things that will grow and make, you know, will like make you be remembered and help you growing your business. All right, so I hope that helps you. If you have any questions, please leave in the comments. And also if you have tips, if you already do fairs and stuff, share here, share with the community so we can all learn from each other. All right, thank you very much, and see you in the next video.